Bobby Nichols by 1 stroke.
Finally revealed, Gabe Brewer's greatest win was truly only possible because 1 year earlier, he almost let everything slip away. In April 1967, Brewer slipped on a green jacket at Augusta National after beating Bobby Nichols by one single stroke. It looked like a clean, proud win. It looked simple, but it was not simple at all. That jacket was not just a prize, it was an escape. 1 year before, on that very same course, Brewer had a big lead in the final round of the Masters. He looked ready to win his first major title. Then it all fell apart in front of everyone watching, and the man who almost became a champion nearly became a warning story instead. And as this story starts to turn, use the hype feature and give this video hype, because Brewer's comeback only matters once we understand how badly he fell. To understand how deep that fall really was, it helps to know how unusual Brewer's whole career already was. As a boy in Lexington, Kentucky, he broke his left elbow in a bad fall at school. The bone healed the wrong way for the rest of his life. His left arm could not fully straighten or turn like a normal arm. Most people would have given up on golf right there. Brewer did not. He began caddying at a local country club as a boy, then spent hours practicing at a small public course nearby. To work around his stiff arm, he built a strange looping swing that broke almost every normal rule of the game. His club would swing far inside the line, then loop outward at the top, then come back down on a completely different path. His own high school coach doubted it at first, until Brewer hit 3 straight tee shots close to the cup and proved the swing actually worked. That unusual talent even caught the eye of a famous football coach at the University of Kentucky. Since the school had no golf scholarships at the time, the coach found Brewer a football scholarship instead, and Brewer spent 2 years on campus before turning pro in 1956. From there, his career grew steadily. He won 3 separate tournaments in 1961 alone, then added more wins over the next few years, showing real skill against some of the best players in the world. By the mid-1960s, Brewer looked like a golfer on the rise, someone who belonged among the biggest names in the sport. But there were early warning signs too. In 1964, tied for the lead late in one event, Brewer jokingly asked Jack Nicklaus what it was worth to him if he missed an important putt. Nicklaus held out a clip of cash, and Brewer missed the putt anyway, dropping out of the lead. It was a funny moment on the surface, but it also hinted at something real. Under pressure, in the biggest moments, Brewer sometimes lost his nerve. That pattern followed him straight into the 1966 Masters. Brewer arrived at Augusta with real momentum, including a strong win earlier that spring. The tournament itself was already heavy with tension before Brewer even hit a shot, since the defending champion had received terrible personal news just before his opening round. Heading into the final round, Brewer sat 2 shots behind the co-leaders, well within reach if he could put together one strong day of golf. Playing alongside Arnold Palmer, Brewer came out firing, playing the front 9 3 shots under par to take control of the tournament. He stayed steady through the middle of the course, parring hole after hole on the back 9, protecting his lead 1 shot at a time. He reached the 18th tee, holding a 1-shot advantage. This was it. One more hole between Brewer and his first green jacket. His drive found the fairway. It should have been simple from there, but his approach shot caught an unlucky bounce and sailed over the back of the green, leaving him a brutally difficult downhill putt just to save par. He hit that first putt and watched it slide 5 feet past the hole. Now he needed the comeback putt just to force a playoff. He missed it. In a matter of seconds, a certain victory turned into a shattering bogey. Instead of putting on a green jacket that afternoon, Brewer had to return the next day for an extra 18 holes, tied with 2 other players, just for a chance to win. That collapse was one of the cruelest in Masters history. 1 shot, 1 small mistake at the worst possible time, and the entire tournament changed. Brewer did not hide from it. That evening, he told reporters plainly that he felt depressed. It was an honest thing to say, but it also confirmed exactly what people were already starting to whisper. This was not bad luck. This was a golfer who could not close the door when it mattered most. The playoff the next day only made things worse. Brewer fell out of contention early and finished with a painful score of 78, while another player shot a much better round and walked away with the jacket. Brewer did not just lose a golf tournament that week. He lost the story. Instead of being remembered as a Masters champion, he became known as the man who let it slip away on the very last green. The criticism that followed was harsh and immediate. Writers and fans openly questioned whether Brewer had what it took to win when the pressure was highest. Some labeled him, unfairly or not, as a golfer who simply could not finish on the biggest stage. It stung to hear, but it was hard to argue with completely. He had controlled the tournament for most of the day. He had the lead. Then his game fell apart at the exact moment it mattered most. The collapse did not prove every harsh word was fair, but it certainly gave people plenty of evidence to keep talking. Later that same year, Brewer gave up another big final round lead, this time to Arnold Palmer at a tournament in Las Vegas, losing 5 strokes worth of advantage in a single afternoon. For a player already fighting doubts about his nerve, that second collapse only added fuel to the fire. Oddly enough, Brewer still picked up an award that same season for his overall steady play across the year. It was a strange honor to receive right after the worst collapse of his career, and it did little to quiet the doubts. A trophy for consistency could not undo what people had watched happen on national television at Augusta. Brewer never argued with his critics in public. He did not blame his caddy, the weather, or bad luck. Instead, he went quietly back to work. Over the winter, he studied his own game honestly. His swing was already unusual because of his stiff arm, but he found ways to smooth out his tempo so it would hold together better under real pressure. Just as importantly, he changed the way he thought on the course. Rather than playing safe and defensive once he had a lead, the way he had tried and failed to do at the 1966 Masters, he decided to keep attacking no matter the situation. He gave this new mindset a simple name. He called it thinking green, always pushing forward instead of playing scared. That new approach paid off almost immediately. In March 1967, just weeks before the Masters, Brewer went out and dominated a tournament, winning by 6 full strokes and setting a scoring record that would stand for more than 40 years. He arrived back at Augusta playing the best golf of his life, but none of that erased what had happened there 12 months earlier. He was walking straight back into the exact place where his reputation had cracked in front of the entire golf world. Everyone remembered 1966. The only real question was whether history was about to repeat itself. Early in the 1967 tournament, one of the biggest headlines had nothing to do with Brewer at all. The defending champion posted a terrible second round and missed the cut completely, something that had never happened to a defending Masters champion before. That shocking exit reshaped the entire tournament and opened the door for other contenders to step forward. One of them was a 54-year-old veteran who, despite real physical pain in his shoulder and legs, produced a brilliant third-round score in the 60s to climb right into contention, tying Brewer for the position just behind the tournament leaders. Brewer stayed within striking distance through it all, sitting just a couple of shots off the lead as the final round began. Exactly the kind of position that had once ended so badly for him at this very course. Sunday turned into a real duel between Brewer and his longtime friend, Bobby Nichols. Nichols understood pressure in his own painful way, having survived a serious car crash as a teenager that left him unable to walk for weeks and kept him in the hospital for months. As the final round moved into the back nine, Brewer leaned fully into his new aggressive mindset. He strung together 3 straight birdies in the middle of the back nine, attacking pins that a more cautious player might have avoided. On one of those holes, a long par 5, his caddy urged him to play it safe with an iron. Brewer ignored that advice, pulled out a bolder club instead, and reached the green in position to make birdie. It worked, and the birdie handed him the outright lead. Could he actually hold it this time? That question hung over every step Brewer took as he approached the 18th hole, the exact hole where his championship dreams had died just 1 year before. This time, his drive found the fairway cleanly. His approach landed safely on the green, nothing like the unlucky bounce that had wrecked him in 1966, relaxed and loose. He even joked around while lining up his birdie putt, swinging his putter like a baseball bat before settling in. He rolled a careful lag putt to within 2 feet, then calmly tapped in for par. His final round score was a strong 67, giving him a total of 8 under par for the tournament. It was enough. Brewer had won the Masters by 1 single stroke over Bobby Nichols. That win meant far more than a trophy. It stopped 1966 from becoming the headline of his entire career. Without it, Brewer might always have been remembered only as the golfer who let a Masters lead slip through his fingers. Instead, he became a major champion who returned to the very course that broke him and refused to let it happen twice. The moment was even historic in a wider sense, since the ceremony was broadcast live by satellite to Europe for the first time ever in golf. When it was all over, Brewer said he felt like the happiest man in history. Later, when he admitted to Augusta National's own co-founder that he had felt a little shaky out there, The response was short and firm. Champions, he was told, do not choke and still win that tournament. Even so, the story of that victory can never be fully separated from the pain that came before it. That is exactly what makes it powerful. A win with no history behind it is just a good round of golf. A win that follows a public, painful collapse becomes something far bigger. It becomes proof. Even small details from that day carry the weight of the whole story. The putter Brewer used to win, a mallet-style club he had customized himself with his caddy, later broke by accident during a repair attempt years afterward. It sat in pieces for years before finally being restored, almost like a quiet echo of Brewer's own broken and rebuilt career. Brewer's success did not stop at Augusta. Later that same year, he won the very first Alcan Golfer of the Year championship in Scotland, beating a strong field in a playoff. He defended that title again the following year, yet the pattern of pressure never fully disappeared. In 1969, Brewer surrendered a 6-stroke final round lead at another tournament, tying a PGA Tour record for the largest lead ever lost in a single round. It was a reminder that thinking green had not completely erased the nerves that once cost him at Augusta. Still, he kept competing at a high level for years, picking up his final PGA Tour win in 1972 and adding an international title that same season. Brewer also represented his country twice in Ryder Cup competition, helping the United States team win both times he played and posting a winning record of his own along the way, including a lopsided singles win in his first appearance. Later in his career on the senior tour, he added more victories, including a team title alongside a longtime rival turned partner. He kept playing in the Masters for decades, walking the same fairways well into his 60s, long after most players had stopped competing there. Brewer's story was not the only one of its kind at Augusta. A few years later, another golfer suffered a similar late collapse, bogeying his way out of a Masters lead, only to return a couple of years after that and win the green jacket himself. Golf has always had a strange way of testing players twice, once when they fall apart, and again, when they get the chance to prove that fall was not the end of the story. Brewer was simply one of the earliest and clearest examples of that pattern. Across his entire major championship career, Brewer built an unusual record. He played in the Masters nearly 40 times, yet claimed only that single victory there. He also finished in the top 10 of major championships more than a dozen times without ever winning another one. In many ways, that single green jacket carried the full weight of his major championship legacy, which is exactly why the story of 1966 could never simply fade away. It was not one chapter among many. For Brewer, it was the chapter that everything else had to answer to. Gay Brewer passed away in Kentucky in 2007, after living a long life connected to the game that both broke him and lifted him back up. He was survived by his 2 daughters, along with a woman he had planned to marry. His home state still honors him today. The small public course where he once practiced as a boy, the same course that shaped his strange, effective swing, was renamed in his memory the very same year he died. It is a fitting tribute, since that course was where his story really began, long before Augusta ever entered the picture. None of that changes what happened in 1966. The collapse still happened. The 3 putts on the final green still happened. The criticism that followed him afterward was not invented out of nothing. But Brewer's response to that failure is exactly why people still talk about him decades later. He did not disappear after the criticism. He did not make excuses. He rebuilt his swing, rebuilt his mindset, and walked back into the exact place where he had been broken down in public. That is the real lesson behind Gay Brewer's story. It is easy to admire someone who never fails. It is far harder and far more meaningful to respect someone who fails in the biggest possible way and still finds a path back. Brewer did not erase the collapse of 1966. He could not erase it, and he never pretended it did not happen. Instead, he let it become part of his story. The reason the win 1 year later actually mattered so much. Golf history is full of players who never got a second chance at redemption. Brewer got his chance, and he made sure the world remembered him for what he did next, not just for what went wrong on one Sunday afternoon at Augusta. His swing was never textbook. His path to the tour was never ordinary, and his road to that green jacket was anything but smooth. Yet all of it adds up to one simple truth. Gay Brewer fell as hard as almost any golfer ever has on that famous course, and he still found a real way to stand back up. That is why, decades later, his name still carries real respect in the game of golf.